The galaxy was filled with stories. Old stories passed down from world to world, whispered in low voices inside dark halls, traded like secrets between soldiers before a battle. Among these stories, one stood out above all others. The tale of a ship that was not just steel and fire, but something more. They called it a myth, a ghost born from humanity's forgotten wars. Many believed it never existed. Others said it had been destroyed long ago, and some swore they had seen its shadow in the stars, a massive warship moving silently through the void, but no one could prove the truth. For centuries, the galaxy laughed at the story. To most, it was only a legend told to make children believe that humans were once powerful. Yet the legend never fully died. Even in the most advanced fleets, commanders sometimes paused when they heard it. Because hidden inside the story was something dangerous: fear. The myth spoke of a warship that could fight entire fleets alone. It was said to carry weapons that no one understood. Weapons that could tear through the strongest shields and rip ships apart like glass. Some said it was built in secret. Others claimed it was not built at all, but born from something greater, a creation of war itself. Generations passed and the galaxy forgot. Humans faded from the center of power. Their colonies scattered, their fleets grew smaller, and their enemies grew stronger. By the time the alien armadas rose to rule, humanity was considered weak, broken, a race too divided to stand against the galaxy. But still, the whispers remained. The alien rulers mocked the idea of the warship. They told their young that humans invented fairy tales to hide their weakness. They said, "There is no ship. There is no myth. Humanity is finished." But deep inside their councils, some remembered old battles, old losses, records erased, battles never explained, fleets that vanished into silence. And though they denied it in public, they feared that maybe, just maybe, the myth was real. In the far edge of the galaxy, a storm of war began to rise. The alien armada gathered its fleets, ready to crush the last human strongholds. They prepared for an easy victory. To them, it was not war, it was a hunt. Thousands of ships aligned in the darkness, their engines glowing like suns, their weapons charged. They wanted to erase the final spark of humanity. And then it happened. The first strange signal came from a scout ship. The pilot reported a massive shadow moving between the stars. It was larger than anything they had ever seen. Its shape was sharp, unnatural, almost alive. Before the scout could transmit more, his ship went silent. Destroyed in a flash of light, the fleet commanders dismissed it. They said the pilot was weak, afraid of his own shadow, but more reports followed. More scouts vanished. Whole patrols went missing. When rescue ships were sent, they too were lost. The Armada grew uneasy. Then in the middle of their war preparations, the long-range sensors picked up something. A single object moving against the void. It was massive, bigger than any dreadnought. Its presence like a scar across the stars. At first, no one believed it. They thought the sensors were broken. They thought it was a trick. But as the image grew sharper, silence fell across the command decks. It was not a trick. It was not a ghost. It was the ship, the warship from the legend. Its hull was ancient yet alive with glowing patterns of energy. Lines of light pulsed across its surface as if the ship itself was breathing. Its engines burned with red fire, not like ordinary thrusters, but like the heart of a dying star. It moved with slow, terrible power, not rushing, not hiding. It did not need to. When the alien commanders saw it, many laughed at first. "A myth cannot kill us," they said. "One ship cannot face an armada." But deep inside, they felt the cold weight of fear. They saw the way it drifted toward them, steady, unstoppable, like a predator that had found its prey. Across human colonies, the story spread like wildfire. Civilians stared at the skies with hope in their eyes. Soldiers whispered prayers. After centuries of silence, humanity's greatest weapon had returned. The myth was no longer a story. It was real, and it was coming for the Armada. The stars themselves seemed to tremble as the ship entered the battlefield. The alien Armada adjusted its formations, unsure if they were preparing for war or facing their own doom. In the silence of space, the warship glowed brighter. And for the first time in living memory, the legend breathed again. The alien Armada stretched across the void like a wall of steel. Thousands of ships floated in perfect formation, their weapons armed, their engines glowing faintly against the dark. They had expected a swift victory, a clean strike against what was left of humanity. But as the shadow of the warship grew closer, their confidence began to crack. At first, commanders treated it like any other threat. One ship is nothing, they said. Numbers win wars. They ordered their fighters to intercept. Swarms of sleek vessels launched from carriers racing toward the massive warship. Trails of light streaked behind them like arrows fired into the dark. But something was wrong. The closer they came, the more the pilots felt it. Their instruments flickered. Their controls grew heavy as if the space around the warship was bending. Some reported hearing whispers over comms, strange static that sounded almost like words. A few froze, unable to breathe, their ships drifting helplessly before vanishing in a burst of fire. The warship did not move quickly. It did not need to. Its size filled the void, a fortress gliding through the dark. Its hull gleamed with strange symbols, glowing with ancient power. The alien fighters fired first, streams of plasma and bursts of missiles. The shots struck the hull, exploding in waves of light. But the warship did not shatter. It did not even flinch. The hull rippled as if it absorbed the fire. Then came the response. One strike. From the center of the warship, a beam of red energy erupted, cutting through space like the blade of a giant. It did not just hit one fighter. It tore through dozens, slicing their formation in half. Ships spun out of control, their wreckage burning silently in the void. The alien commanders shouted orders. Press forward! Overwhelm it! They forced their fleets into attack lines, wave after wave crashing toward the warship. But every strike they launched was met with something worse. The warship unleashed weapons they had never seen before. Cannons that fired silent bursts of energy, each impact swallowing ships in flashes of white light. Shockwaves rippled across the battlefield, disabling entire squadrons in seconds. Drones, small and sharp like shards of metal, swarmed from hidden bays and tore into enemy fighters with surgical precision. The aliens fought with desperation, yet for every 100 ships they sent, the warship destroyed them as if swatting insects. Inside the alien flagships, panic spread. Officers watched as screens filled with red markers. Destroyed units, broken formations, lost wings. Their commanders tried to stay calm, but their voices shook. It is only one ship, they repeated again and again. But their eyes betrayed them. They knew this was not true. Because this was not just a ship. It was something else. The survivors of the first wave spoke with trembling voices. They said the warship seemed alive, as if it predicted their every move. Every evasive maneuver was countered before it began. Every attempt to flank was met with fire already waiting. Some swore the ship could see into their thoughts, striking before their hands even touched the controls. For the first time in centuries, the alien armada felt fear. Still, they pressed on. Pride and arrogance forced them forward. The alien admiral, a being covered in metallic armor, stood tall on his command deck. His voice thundered across the fleet. This is no myth. This is no god. It is only steel. And steel breaks. He ordered all heavy cruisers to focus their fire. The sky erupted. Hundreds of beams, missiles, and plasma bursts converged on the warship at once. The light was blinding, the heat searing even from a distance. For a moment, the galaxy itself seemed to vanish in fire. When the light faded, silence followed. Debris floated everywhere. Smoke and radiation blurred the view. Many hoped, many prayed that the warship had been destroyed. Then the shadows moved. Through the haze, the warship emerged, untouched. Its hull glowed brighter now, as if it had swallowed the storm. The symbols across its body pulsed like veins of fire, and with slow, terrible grace it turned its weapons toward the alien flagships. The admiral froze. His words died in his throat. His crew stared in horror, because in that moment they understood this was not a myth. This was not a legend. This was judgment. The warship opened fire. One flagship vanished in a blaze, split in half by a single shot. Another crumbled as its engines exploded. Entire battle lines collapsed as the warship advanced, its guns never missing, its strikes never slowing. The galaxy had never seen such precision, such destruction. In the chaos, one alien officer whispered what many were thinking. We are not fighting men. We are fighting history. And history was winning. The battle had only begun, but already the outcome was clear. The warship had returned and the Armada was breaking. The alien Armada had never faced fear like this. Their fleet stretched wide, Their ships covered the horizon of stars, yet none of it seemed enough. Against one warship, their thousands suddenly felt small. The admiral barked fresh commands. Entire divisions shifted into attack formations, surrounding the warship from every angle. The strategy was simple: overwhelm it with fire until it broke. Pride and arrogance would not let them retreat, but the warship did not retreat either. It advanced, steady and silent, glowing with power. The first wave began. Hundreds of heavy cruisers opened fire, filling space with storms of plasma and light. Explosions rained against the warship's hull. The battlefield burned bright enough to blind unprotected eyes. The aliens shouted in triumph, believing they had done it. But as the light faded, their celebration turned into silence. The warship was still there, unbroken. Its glowing patterns burned brighter than before, as if it had absorbed their fury and fed on it. Then it answered. Cannons along its flanks turned slowly, almost lazily, and unleashed their fire. Red beams cut through the void like blades. Each shot struck with absolute precision. One cruiser split apart, its halves spinning away like toys. Another melted where it stood, its crew gone before they could scream. Every strike was final. Every strike was perfect. The second wave rushed in, desperate. Squadrons of fighters dived toward the warship, releasing missiles that glittered like falling stars. But halfway through their charge, they froze. Their systems shut down mid-flight, their engines died. The warship's presence alone had disabled them. They drifted helplessly, easy prey. Small drones burst from the warship, sharp and fast, tearing through the disabled fighters with surgical strikes. The battlefield filled with wreckage. Still, the admiral would not stop. He roared across the comms, "Press forward. It bleeds like us." But the crew around him knew better. They saw the warship's movements, the way it turned and struck like a predator toying with prey. This was no ordinary enemy. This was something older, something patient. As more ships fell, fear spread like wildfire. Captains began ignoring orders. Some turned their ships to flee, only to find the warship blocking their escape. It seemed to always be in the right place, cutting off retreat, forcing them back into the slaughter. One alien officer whispered what everyone felt. "It knows us. It knows how we fight." And then, the warship changed. Sections of its hull shifted, revealing hidden weapons. Massive cannons emerged, glowing brighter than suns. The ship fired, not in single strikes now, but in volleys of destruction. Entire battle lines collapsed at once. Ships vanished in silence, consumed by light. The soundless void echoed with terror. Inside the alien command decks, chaos reigned. Officers shouted, reports clashed, signals cut out. The admiral's voice broke as he repeated his order, "Stand your ground." But fewer and fewer obeyed. The fleet was breaking apart. Yet inside the warship there was no chaos. The human crew stood calm, their eyes fixed on controls, their voices steady. To them, this was not madness. This was destiny. They had waited generations for this moment. On the bridge, their commander spoke quietly. Words meant only for his crew. "They thought we were gone. They thought we were stories. Today we remind them who we are." And the warship roared again. It surged forward straight into the heart of the Armada. Alien ships scattered, but scattering only made them easier targets. The warship's weapons struck in all directions. Fire and fury tearing through the night. Every second, another alien ship was lost. Every moment the myth grew stronger. In desperation, the admiral gave one final command. All remaining ships were to focus their fire on the warship's core. If they could destroy its heart, maybe they could survive. Dozens of ships turned, unleashing everything they had. Streams of energy and missiles slammed into the warship. Explosions covered it once again. This time the light was brighter, the fire hotter. The fleet held its breath, praying the myth was finally broken. When the smoke cleared, the warship was wounded. Parts of its hull burned, its armor cracked in places. For a heartbeat, hope flickered among the aliens. But then the symbols across its surface blazed like never before, its weapons charged with terrifying speed. The warship spoke in fire. The counterattack was merciless. One by one, the cruisers that dared strike its heart were destroyed, each vanishing in brilliant flashes. The hope that had flickered among the aliens was extinguished. The Armada was no longer fighting to win. It was fighting to survive, and survival was slipping away. The battlefield was no longer a place of order. It was chaos. Where once the alien Armada had moved like a single machine, Now it broke apart in confusion. Thousands of ships drifted in disarray, their neat lines shattered by fire and fear. The warship had entered their center like a storm, and the storm would not end. From the bridges of the alien flagships, captains looked out and saw not victory but ruin. Their squadrons, once proud and unbreakable, were scattered wrecks. Some crews abandoned their posts, some froze in silence, and some fired wildly, hitting allies instead of the enemy. Fear spread faster than fire. The warship moved slowly through the wreckage, never rushing, never showing weakness. Its glowing hull lit the void like a burning symbol, its massive guns turning with calm precision. It did not need to chase. It knew the Armada would come to it, drawn by rage and fear like moths to a flame. Every shot from the warship was final. It did not waste fire. It struck exactly where it meant to, cutting through ships with surgical perfection. Cruisers exploded. Carriers broke apart, spilling fighters into the void. Even the most heavily armored dreadnoughts lasted only seconds under its guns. On one alien command ship, an officer dropped to his knees. His voice shook as he whispered, "We are fighting something that remembers every war we ever fought. It knows us better than we know ourselves." His captain silenced him, but the words had already taken root in the minds of the crew. The myth was no longer a whisper. It was reality, and reality was terrifying. Across the battlefield, transmissions crackled with panic. "We cannot hold," one commander cried. "Our shields are useless." Another voice, filled with despair, begged for retreat, but the admiral refused. His pride would not let him admit defeat. Yet pride could not hide the truth. The truth was written in the wreckage floating all around them. The alien fleets had always trusted in numbers, in sheer size and power. But against the warship, numbers meant nothing. Every time a group tried to surround it, they were cut down before they even closed the trap. Every formation crumbled under fire they could not withstand. It was not a battle. It was a slaughter. And worse, the warship seemed to be learning as it fought. Each wave of alien attacks was answered faster, each counterstrike more precise. It was as if the ship itself adapted, reshaping its tactics mid-battle. Drones shifted their patterns, cannons targeted weak points, shields pulsed to deflect blows that had struck before. The longer the fight lasted, the more impossible victory became. Some captains broke discipline and tried to flee. They turned their ships away, engines burning bright as they raced for the edges of the battlefield. For a moment, they thought they had escaped. Then the warship moved. It slid across the void with unnatural speed, cutting them off. Its weapons fired once, and the fleeing ships vanished in a storm of fire. The message was clear: there would be no escape. The admiral watched in silence, his eyes burning with fury. His great armada, his pride, his symbol of strength, was falling apart before his very eyes. For the first time in his long career, he felt the chill of doubt. Could one ship truly destroy everything he had built? The warship answered him with another volley. One of his nearest flagships took the hit. The explosion lit his command deck, shaking the very walls. His crew stared at him, waiting for orders. But he had none. In the silence, one officer spoke softly. "We are not the hunters anymore. We are prey." The admiral's fists clenched. He wanted to deny it, to scream that they were still powerful, that they were not broken. But as he looked out at the battlefield, he knew the truth. His fleets were dying, and worse than death, they were dying in fear. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread. Other races watched in disbelief as reports reached their worlds. A single warship, a human warship, was destroying an armada no one thought could be defeated. Leaders whispered to each other, wondering if they were next. Civilizations that had mocked humanity felt a weight settle over them, because if this was only the beginning, then the galaxy itself might tremble. Inside the warship, the human crew remained calm. Their faces were stone, their eyes unshaken. To them, this was not just a battle. It was justice. Generations had suffered, colonies had burned, humanity had been humiliated. Now the myth was no longer a story. It was a blade, cutting down those who had laughed at them, and the galaxy was watching. The battle was not over, but already the outcome was certain. The alien armada could keep fighting, could keep throwing ships into the fire, but they could not change what had begun. Fear had already spread, not just through their fleet, but through the stars themselves. The warship was not only crushing an armada, it was reshaping the galaxy, and everyone knew nothing would ever be the same again. The battlefield was quiet now, but not with peace. It was the silence of death. Wreckage floated through the void, glowing with fading fire. The once mighty alien Armada, the fleet that had promised to erase humanity, was reduced to drifting bones of steel. Thousands of ships gone, commanders silenced. Proud banners turned to ash among the stars. And in the center of it all, the warship remained. It hovered in the darkness, its hull still glowing with burning symbols, its cannons still warm with fire. Scars marked its armor, proof of the battle's fury, but the ship was not broken. If anything, the damage made it more terrifying, like a beast that had taken every wound and still refused to fall. The alien admiral stood frozen on his ruined command deck. His fleet was gone, his pride destroyed. He had built his life on the belief that numbers always won, that no legend could stand against true power. But as he looked upon the warship, he understood the truth. Legends do not fade. Legends wait, and when they return, they do not whisper. They roar. With what strength remained, the admiral gave the order to retreat. His voice was broken, stripped of pride. The few ships that survived turned and fled into the dark, engines burning with desperation. They did not look back. None dared, because they knew what they had seen. The myth was real. The warship did not chase them. It did not need to. Its presence alone was enough. The survivors would spread the story faster than any weapon. Entire worlds would hear the tale of the battle that should never have been lost but was. And in every retelling, the fear would grow. The galaxy would remember. Inside the warship, the human crew stood in silence. They had trained for years, prepared for this day. But even they felt the weight of what had just happened. The bridge was lit only by the faint glow of controls, and in that glow their faces seemed carved in stone. One young officer broke the silence. "They will come again," she said quietly. Her commander nodded. His voice was steady, heavy with certainty. "Yes, and we will be ready." For centuries, humanity had been scattered, ignored, and mocked. Their enemies called them weak, called them broken, said their time had passed. But now the myth had returned, not as a story, but as a warning. Humanity was not finished. The warship turned slowly, its engines burning with deep red fire. It moved past the wreckage of the Armada, past the broken remains of ships that had once thought themselves invincible. Each fragment of twisted metal was a reminder. Arrogance had fallen, fear had risen. On distant worlds, alien leaders watched the reports with cold dread. They had laughed at humans once. They would not laugh again. They whispered to each other in secret, wondering how many of these warships existed, wondering if more would rise. If one ship could erase an armada, what could a fleet do? And across human colonies, hope returned. For the first time in living memory, people raised their eyes to the stars without fear. They knew the myth was real. They knew they were not alone. Humanity's greatest strength had always been endurance, the refusal to die. And now the galaxy would face that strength. The warship's commander stood tall on his bridge, watching the stars ahead. His words carried across the deck, firm and cold. "They called us stories. They called us forgotten. Let them see the truth. Humanity never dies." The crew answered with silence, but it was not an empty silence. It was the silence of unity, of belief, of purpose. The warship accelerated, vanishing into the deep void. Its red glow faded among the stars, leaving behind only wreckage and fear. But the story of its return was already racing across the galaxy. From one system to another, from soldier to child, the tale spread. The myth had come alive. The warship had crushed an armada. Humanity had returned, and this was only the beginning.